Today, I'll go over a 2022 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character Morbius. The film begins in Costa Rica, where a group of scientists arrives at the entrance to a cave. Dr. Michael Morbius, the expedition's leader, instructs the team to set a trap at the entrance. He then takes a step forward and cuts his palm in order to entice the creature inside the cave to come out. Following that, a swarm of bats begins to fly out. The crew returns to the helicopter, but Morbius remains motionless, as if he is still waiting for something. In Greece, the scene shifts to a young Michael Morbius, who is introduced to Lucian by Dr. Emil Nicholas. They both have a blood disease, and the doctor is responsible for their care. Morbius immediately calls him Milo when they first talk because the last kid there was named that. Milo's machine suddenly malfunctions and he passes out after a while of chatting. Morbius repairs the machine with a spring from his pen, and Milo reawakens as a result. Morbius' intelligence has impressed the doctor, and he intends to send him to an exclusive school in New York. Milo is harassed by a group of bullies after Morbius' departure, and is later beaten down until Dr. Nicholas arrives to save him. Long story short, the adult Morbius obtains his doctorate by the age of 19, and he is known for his efforts to cure a blood-borne disease. As a result, he is awarded the Nobel Prize in Sweden, but he declines the honor. He returns to his work, where he is treating Anna, who has the same disease as him. Morbius works in the hospital with his girlfriend, Dr. Martine Bancroft, who believes Morbius is pushing himself too hard. She also mentions a gentleman named Milo as a benefactor for their project of fusing human and bat DNA. He kept the bats from the cave earlier to learn more about them because he believes bats could be the cure for the disease. Morbius' theory is challenged by Martine, so he immediately tests his serum on a lab rat to prove it. However, it dies, and Anna begins to have seizures. They rush to Anna's room and successfully induce a coma before she suffers a stroke. Martine returns to the lab and notices that the lab rat has begun to move. They conclude that the serum is effective. Morbius approaches Milo and Nicholas and informs them of the breakthrough. Morbius and Milo go to the park, where he asks Milo for more money so that he can continue the experiments on international waters, which are not entirely legal. He warns Milo that they don't have much time left and that Morbius must act quickly or it will be too late for both of them. To cut a long story short, the ship sets sail for international waters, and Martine is there to assist Morbius. Morbius decides to conduct a human trial after ensuring the serum's safety. Martine injects Morbius with the serum and then straps him up to prevent anything bad from happening. When a crew member walks into the lab, he realizes Morbius has escaped. They enter the isolation chamber and discover Morbius crawling on the ceiling. The man attempts to shoot him, but Morbius reacts quickly and attacks him. When a group of mercenaries arrives at the lab, one of them pushes Martine down, knocking her out. Morbius, who has transformed into a vampire, smashes the glass and attacks all of the mercenaries. He escapes the lab and goes in search of the remaining survivors. Morbius awakens and regains his humanity after eliminating everyone on the ship, discovering that his body has transformed into a better shape. He enters the control room and watches himself on the surveillance cameras attacking the men and draining their blood. Morbius issues a mayday call, grabs some serums, and jumps into the sea. The following day, FBI agents Simon Stroud and Rodriguez arrive at the scene to investigate the crime. They discover Martine is still alive, but Morbius has erased all surveillance footage. In the meantime, Nicholas and Milo learn about the incident from the news. Morbius then returns to the hospital and immediately goes to his lab to quench his thirst by consuming blood sample. Morbius, who could barely walk before, now possesses incredible speed and strength. He enters the tank, and the bats regard him as their leader. He later realizes that artificial blood cannot keep him stable for an extended period of time. Milo appears just before Morbius relapses into his monstrous state and assists him in regaining control by handing him more blood samples. Milo learns that Morbius is completely cured and wishes to be injected with the serum as well, but Morbius refuses because it is still uncontrollable. Milo persists, and Morbius is forced to expel him from the lab. Martine is approached by FBI agents who question her about the horrifying incident, but she refuses to answer them. Still that evening, a vampiric creature attacks a nurse. Morbius later discovers that a nurse has been murdered, indicating that he was not the murderer. The agents confront him just before he departs, questioning him about conducting a bizarre experiment on the ship. They try to arrest Morbius, but he fights back and attacks them. He then tries to flee by using his power to climb to the top of the hospital, but he is quickly apprehended and taken to a detention center. Stroud and Rodriguez question him and accuse him of murdering the nurse. Morbius gradually becomes unstable and requests that the agent bring him the artificial blood, but they leave without giving him what he requested. Soon after, he is visited by Milo, who leaves him with a pack of artificial blood. However, he forgets to bring his cane. and Morbius soon realizes that Milo stole the serum for himself, implying that he is the one who murdered the innocent nurse. He then transforms back into the vampiric monster and flees the facility, attempting to track down his best friend. Meanwhile, Milo transforms into a monster and murders a man. Morbius confronts Milo and warns him that his power is dangerous, but he refuses to listen and instead attacks his best friend. They end up in a subway station, where several officers arrive to arrest Milo, but he easily kills them all. Milo insists on fighting Morbius, who instead chooses to flee through the tunnel. When the agents arrive at the crime scene, they believe Morbius is the one who slaughtered all of the officers. Martine, on the other hand, is finally released from the hospital. Morbius approaches her in a bus in the morning, explaining his condition and Milo to her. He also requests her assistance because the artificial blood is losing its ability to restrain the monster within him. Following that, he follows two thugs from the cafe to their laboratory, where he politely requests that they hand over their laboratory to him. A man tries to stab him, but he is too strong for him. The other thugs flee, and he continues to work on a serum that will prevent him from transforming. Milo, on the other hand, goes to a nightclub and flirts with a beautiful woman, but a tough guy is not pleased. Fortunately, he retains control of his power. Later that evening, he pursues the man and his companions before slaughtering them all. The agents and officers break into Martine's home but discover no one there. Martine is actually working with Morbius in his new lab, where they eventually kiss. Milo is watching them from afar, unbeknownst to them. The next day, FBI agents discover the dead clubgoers and learn from the surveillance camera that Milo, not Morbius, was the true culprit all along. Following the news of the massacre, Dr. Nicholas speaks with Milo, who is frightening him due to his obsession with the new superpower. They then argue after Milo expresses his disappointment that Nicholas has always preferred Morbius over him as his favorite child. He assaults the doctor, severely injuring him. Back to Morbius. He has finally finished developing an antibody that is harmful to his vampiric body and intends to inject the poison into both his and Milo's bodies. He receives a call from Nicholas a few moments later and rushes to his location. Unfortunately, Morbius arrives too late and perishes. Milo infiltrates their lab and kidnaps Martine. Morbius locates her and immediately reaches her using his superpower, but Milo also severely injures her. With time running out, Martine allows him to suck her blood in order to pursue Milo, but a small drop of his own blood falls into Martine's mouth. Morbius, enraged, attacks his best friend, resulting in a fight between two vampiric monsters. They both fly and crash until they reach an underground tunnel, where Morbius summons a swarm of bats to surround Milo. Morbius takes advantage of the situation to approach Milo and inject him with the antibody. He quickly loses strength and eventually dies. Morbius, surrounded by a swarm of bats, flees just as the cops arrive, while Martine is resurrected as a vampire. A multiversal rift from the Spider-Man film opens up during the post-credits scene, and Adrian Toomes eventually ends up in this universe. He is somehow released from his cell and meets Morbius, offering to collaborate for the greater good.